So, Bonnie, I want to shift to technology. You were the former deputy administrator for USAID. You have a technology background, and as I mentioned in your introduction, that you co-authored three patents. I mean, give us a peek into Israel technology. I mean, we all heard about the pagers, right? And not only the pagers, but then they were able to target the walkie-talkies in Lebanon. Which so the technological advantage necessary, but give us a little more insight into some of the technology. I don't necessarily even mean military technology, but some of the technological developments and innovations that people don't know came from Israel.
Right. It is. That's such a great question, and people would be shocked to learn that GPS was originated in Israel. What we depend on in the form of Waze, for example, which was acquired by Google Maps for like $8 billion several years ago. Waze was an Israeli startup. And I heard today a really fun description of the Israeli Air Force, that it's really just a technology company. And on some level, that's actually true. The most incredible technologies in Israel, which is called the startup nation because it has more startups per capita than any country in the world other than the United States. It has more companies listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange of any country other than the United States. And this is from a country of 9.5 million people. So it's a pretty incredible place to be running in. Israeli entrepreneurship and this idea of creativity often comes from an internal need, an internal requirement. When Israel became an independent state recognized by the UN in 1948, it was largely a desert country, and yet it had all of these people who needed to eat. And it was basically a developing country, very poor, a lot of refugees from World War II, from Nazi Germany, and from across Europe, as well as the people who had lived there for centuries prior to the formal establishment of the state. And they have people to feed in a desert country. They need water, or they need to find ways to make the best use of the scarce resources that they have. Israel now, today, 2024, compared to 1948, Israel is the country in the world that reuses and recycles more of its water than any other country in the world. And the percent of Israel's water that is recycled or reused, and for reuse, that's in agriculture, that's in hydropower, the reuse percentage of water in Israel is 90%. 90% of Israel's water is reused or recycled. The second closest country is Spain. And in Spain, they reuse and recycle 17%, 17.
Wow.
So delta between Israel recycling 90+% of its water and Spain at 17% is really extraordinary.
Wow.
But what Israel has done is said, because it's constantly in this struggle to have allies, it has reached out to countries all over the world who are in situations today that are similar to the situation that Israel was in at its founding. So they're desert countries. They suffer from climate shocks, and Israel shares technology with them. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has gone on tours of African countries, for example, showcasing Israeli water technology to local smallholder farmers to offer to them for free. This is Israel's give back to the world, the technology associated with the startup nation, particularly agriculture, in water, in communications. It's really amazing.
Bonnie, it never occurred to me, even though I know the history of Israel, for some reason, the way you just said it really struck me. It is a baby country.
It's a young nation.
Brand new. It is brand new. And the idea that it has gotten where it has, I'm not, I hate to get all biblical on the show, but I'm just saying that God said, if you mess with my people, the Jews, Israel is my people, and I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to make your enemies pay. And,
You make a good point there, Ericka, by saying it's a baby nation. It's actually also an ancient nation and an ancient people. And I think that connective tissue of the ancient and the modern is the thing that makes Israel such an extraordinary demonstration to the world of whether we get biblical or not. It's really a land and a people that have always been one. And yeah, in the Bible, God says, "I will bless those who bless you, and those who curse you, I will curse." And Israel shares its bounty and shares its blessings with any and all takers. And that just exemplifies kind of that pioneering spirit of, we know how hard it is, and we want to help ease the burden for others as well.
Love it.
And Bonnie, and that's part of the issue with why we put Israel Appreciation Day together again, which I'm thankful you were such a key part of it, is the only thing that most people in this country know is that it's a Jewish nation, or the Jewish homeland, and that it's a U.S. ally. But really, and that was the show, right, which was a modern miracle and an ancient hope. When you think about it from that Israel is such a young nation, yet really, 2,000 years ago, right, the people of Israel were conquered. They were scattered. They came back. It's the same place, the same land. It's the same language. It's the same alphabet. It's the same prayers, right? And you're right. They reclaimed the desert and the swamps, and to make Israel, the regional superpower that it is. It on one level, it is really concerning that obviously Israel is being attacked. On the other hand, it is quite a hopeful story and a marvelous story in Israel, that the perseverance of it all. But I do want to bring you back to with just from a geopolitical standpoint. If Israel responds to Iran, what are Iran's options? Because I had said that I don't think Iran wants to escalate this, and I sort of detected that maybe you're not so sure, that you don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Iran has, at this point in time, nothing to lose. Iran is the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. They are the paymasters and trainers of Hamas and of Hezbollah and of the Houthis and many other terrorist organizations. And the one thing that they all have in common is a hatred of Israel and a desire to see Israel destroyed. Well, what Israel has done over the course of the last nearly 1 year is push back and fight back. Israel has very close to decimated all of Hamas's military capabilities in Gaza. Even though the United States repeatedly said, restraint, ceasefire, blah, 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 Israel knows what is in the interest of its citizens, and protecting those citizens means eliminating the threat from Hamas. Hezbollah, simultaneously almost with Hamas, the day after October 7th, Hezbollah began showering Israel with thousands of missiles. Over 9,000 missiles over the course of the last year have been launched at Israel. Now that Hamas is on its back foot, we'll just say, and hopefully more than that. Israel saw the opportunity to start penetrating and destroying Hezbollah as well. Hezbollah was always seen as a much bigger threat than Hamas because it was much better armed, much better trained, and it was Hezbollah that up until this week had been the one deterrent that Iran had to keep Israel from striking its nuclear capabilities. Iran knew that Israel's not going to respond because Hezbollah will attack. Well, all of Hezbollah's leadership has been eliminated. All of its middle managers and senior managers have been beeped, we'll just say. We'll use that as an and so the deterrent effect that Hezbollah has been able to provide is gone. And there's nothing at this point in time, one, to deter Israel from acting, and two, at this point, Iran's kind of got nothing to lose because all of their protection is gone. They know that America and Israel are pretty ticked off. So what's to stop them from doing this last righteous jihadi effort against the Jewish state? I would say there's very little to deter them.
Which then leads to the conclusion that Israel has to preempt.
Yes.
Israel,
Robert, it's not preemptive. They've been struck. They had hundreds of Iranian ICBMs shot at them today.
Yeah.
Nothing preemptive here. This is
I mean preempting a potential nuclear strike.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about preempting. I mean, the provocation is already there, right? Iran attacked a sovereign nation twice, as you point out, in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, why can't we just bomb them? I don't get it. Like, why can't we just bomb their nuclear facility?
Well,
or why can't
we being Israel, or we being the United States? Because the United States, under the Biden administration, and let's go back to the Trump administration, right? No administration is perfect, but it was the Abraham Accords, in my opinion, that changed the dynamic for the good in terms of on the verge of peace in the Middle East. And that, I think, was the casus belli for Iran through their proxy to start this war, right? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not saying I'm right, but if you're going to ask me to assess, geopolitics. But my question, Bonnie, then is, Israel preempts a nuclear strike and attacks Iran. We'll see what Iran does. What does the U.S. do? What confidence level, or what do you believe that the Biden administration is willing to do and not do? Because there's so many stories about the pressure they put on them to accept peace with Hezbollah by giving up sovereign territory in the north, that they were withholding weapons, don't go into Rafah, in Gaza, don't finish them off, let them reconstitute. All of these sort of mixed, and I'm being nice when I say mixed messages, because I don't think it's mixed messages at all. What do you believe the U.S.'s response will be, if any, in the next 30 days?
Well, I think it'll be under 30 days because we're 35 days away from a presidential election. And Israel has been extraordinarily successful every single time they do not inform the United States of their intended actions in advance. So I think that the American administration, the Biden-Harris administration, is going to be surprised, not surprised that Israel takes action, but surprised by what form that action takes and how many stages it comes in. And I don't have a crystal ball either, Robert, so I have no idea when it'll be, but I suspect that the leadership in Israel across the board, and probably most of the Israeli public, would like to see a change of administration in the United States. And they know that Biden and Kamala Harris, their end game is for Israel and Iran both to not lose, rather than for Israel to have total victory. Whereas I think Israelis look at a future Trump administration and say, this is the team that will want us to have total victory. And they know that we can do this on our own. We just need America to run cover for Israel in terms of international media, international opinion, and occasional support militarily. It would also be nice if the Biden administration didn't slow walk munitions that are scheduled to be sent to Israel.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have a disco ball. Okay.
Disco ball.
And what this disco ball is telling me is that sounds like a bunch of nonsense. Okay. Yeah. So how can you both not lose? How did you I'm trying to remember how you phrased that.
Wait. You mean the nonsense is the Biden administration's position of moral equivalence?
Yes.
To try to get them both to win?
I can't even.
I'm gonna go one step the other side. They would actually like to see Iran in a superior position to Israel. This is a pro-Hamas administration, in my opinion. And like, you can candy coat this, Ericka. You can candy coat this any way you want it. But this administration, because all they care about, well, there's a couple of things they care about, but one of them is winning re-election in November, and there are constituencies in Michigan and other places. I mean, why else do you pass over a moderate Democrat like Governor Josh Shapiro, right?
There cannot be more pro-Hamas people in America than there are pro-Israel. There can't. I just can't. I know we're seeing the craziness at college campuses, but let's be real. College students are stupid. So, what does their opinion matter anyway?
We're talking about voters.
I know.
The other thing is the geopolitics of the region is they are trying to, between China and Russia and Iran, which we can call them what they are, which is the new axis of evil, right? I mean, they're clearly all connected.
Don't they have an acronym?
That I don't know, but and we don't have enough time because I know, Bonnie, you have such knowledge in all of these kind of relations in the world. Because to me, the end game. The short end game is Iran, and you have to cut off the head of the snake. The Iranian, the people forget Iran is not Arab; it's Persian, right? It's a very old people, and Persians have always only historically shown deference to absolute force. You cannot rationalize or reason in Western thought with the mullahs of Iran because they don't think rationally in Western sense, so they don't react. They don't really, well, you don't think rationally, Ericka, in America. So that's okay. But that's okay. But then the question is pull China into this for us, Bonnie, because China has a role here. And China is involved in all of this, whether it's weapons, whether it's money, whether it's Belt and Road, which is encircling us around. I have friends who are ambassadors, right? I mean, I know what's going on in Africa, and they're buying. I mean, so is not China really, I won't say they're the man behind the curtain or the country behind the curtain, but isn't China as involved in this Iran-Israel war as any other nation on Iran's side?
I think China is one of the most interesting countries to observe. There's an old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. And that is what we are all living in now. China was the first country to swoop in August or early September 2021 into Afghanistan to help the Taliban pick up all of the pieces that were left behind by the United States, including all of the weapons that we left behind, so that they can reverse engineer them and get access to our technologies, but also to get access to all of the rare earth elements that are present in Afghanistan. China is all about China, and China is all about beating America. But here's an interesting thing. In the course of this entire war since October 7th, China has just been whipping Israel publicly, talking about genocide, talking about war crimes, denigrating the Israelis until the beepers. And after the beepers, And after the hit on Hassan Nasrallah, who everybody believed was in a secure location, China gave a little finger wag at Israel. China wants to pick winners, period. And that kind of realpolitik is actually a little bit more genuine than this fake allyship that the Biden-Harris administration has been demonstrating toward Israel.
Well, the interesting thing to me is if, and there's certain principles we operate on, and the one I think we're operating on now is that it's a really bad sign when your enemies no longer fear you and your friends no longer trust you, right? But with that as a backdrop, if Israel cannot depend on the United States in the same way, and I go back, I'm a student of politics and history, not as much as you, but certainly, back in the 50s, under Nasser, when they were more in the Russian orbit, and there were things like, relationships change and strategic alliances change. If Israel can't depend on the United States for weaponry or other things, who would they turn to?
Well, what Israel is doing now, and has been doing since October 7th, is ramped up its domestic capability to manufacture its own weapons. This is an industry that used to be extraordinarily robust in Israel until President Obama signed a 10-year security agreement with Israel, ensuring that the United States would back Israel up with needed weaponry should a situation arise in which it was needed, only on the condition that Israel exclusively purchase from the United States.
Of course.
Which led to the shutdown of dozens of Israeli arms manufacturing companies domestically in Israel. What Israel has this is a little known footnote in history. And what Israel has seen now since October 7th is if we can't depend on the United States, our industry has to come back. And they had some of the best arms manufacturers in the world. They were exporting arms around the world as well, to allied countries, not to bad guys. If Israel can restart its industry, it will put Israel in a more secure position. So that's what Israel has been doing since October 7th. And I think what we'll start to see is this will all start to come online relatively quickly, but it's all relative, Robert and Ericka. They won't be fully online manufacturing at the level they need to be. My understanding from the Israelis is until 2025. So we're still, if not a year out.
Well, and this is
here to there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the lesson we learned in COVID, right? All of our medicines are made in China, and you got a bunch of anti-2A people in office. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have been blessed with the presence of Mrs. Bonnie Glick. Thank you so much for being with us. Okay, let's oh my gosh, Bonnie, I feel like I could talk to you like all day long.
I promised her she was only coming on for 2 segments.
I know, and we went.
She's got a date with the VP debate tonight. I think she's got popcorn somewhere that she needs to pop to get ready for the debate.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for being with us, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again soon when we get some updates. We'll have you back on when we get some updates on the situation.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to all of your Jewish viewers.
Shana Tova to you and your family.
Thank you. All right, you guys. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to say thank you to our sponsor, ASIC, and be back. And in the meantime, throw something in the chat. Throw something in the comments. Give us a question. Let us know.
They have no guts. Come on,
guts.
Where are you? Hey, you got no guts. Why
don't you have any guts? Eh?
Right.
Let me see your guts.